There is a concept in gaming known as going tall versus going wide, popular in strategy games such as Stellaris and Civilization, that can be applied to Warhammer 40,000. In today's video, we're going to see how it can be applied to list building. First, we're going to break down what this concept is and what it means. Next, we'll look at how it applies to 40k, and finally, I'm going to briefly go over some example lists of this theory in action. So, to begin, let's talk about what going tall and going wide actually means. Popularised in the classic PC game Civilization and adopted into other franchises such as Stellaris and Magic the Gathering, going tall or going wide is a strategic choice on how to approach the big picture problems you are facing. Essentially, going tall is focusing on building a civilization or deck with only a few specialised elite components. For example, in Civ games this would mean min-maxing just a few cities to get the absolute best production and output from them, each specialising in a particular role and doing so very well. A wide empire, however, would have as many cities as possible settled, focusing on maxing out their base productivity with a goal of quantity being a quality of its own. So how does this apply to Warhammer? Well, we replace empire building with list building and change cities for units. A tall 40k list will contain fewer units, somewhere between 1 and 6 or 7, whereas a wide list will typically contain greater than 12 or 13 units. Aspects of a tall list will also include maxing out upgrades on those few units, often in the form of Death Stars or buff stacks, whereas a wide list will eschew specificity and focus on expansion and presence. In addition to the basic composition via number of units and their synergies, these opposing list formulations will do better or worse at certain game problems. For example, a tall list will do exceptionally well at killing enemy units, but most likely lack in board control or tactical flexibility. A wide list, however, may struggle with combat but should be able to lay down a healthy presence on the battlefield and have options for many tactical challenges. Because of this, it is unlikely that a tall list will be able to score particularly well with tactical missions, or with primary scoring systems that require lots of mobility. A wide list, however, will tend to have tools to answer many tactical secondary problems. Additionally, both lists will certainly find hard counters. A tall list facing a heavily mobile anti-tank force going second will suffer, losing perhaps a quarter of its army with each unit destroyed. A wide list, similarly, may suffer into an all-comers list that puts out decent volume alongside reasonable combat. There is no better or worse here, just different ways to play, and this should be guided by your personal preference. For example, as an older, huskier player, I gravitate to having fewer units on the table, as it allows me to have quicker games and reduce back pain. Players who are able to move models quicker may find a wider list more beneficial to their playstyle, as it will tend to play the mission a little stronger. So that's what wide and tall lists are, so let's have a look at some examples of them. On the table before you, you'll see a basic list here. We've got Angron and 3 Lords of Skulls. This is a very tall list. It's 4 units only. Before the unnecessary points hike on the Lord of Skulls, you'd actually try and include a Master of Executions with the Favourite of Khorne and probably a unit of Jackals or 2 as well, just to have some play with the mission. However, with the points change, this is literally all you can fit in. It is the most elite army you could reasonably run as a pure World Eaters list. You could obviously put a Chaos Warhound in there and have little to nothing else, but we're not running that. So this is 4 units. Each of them will do very well at killing. The Lords of Skulls do synergise with Angron in that every unit they kill will add 1 or remove 1 from the blessings when they are rolled, so there is always a reasonable chance that Angron will come back. And every unit in here is just about equally a target of priority for your opponent, and it will skew very heavily into lists that just can't handle the anti-tank. So this is the first example here. This is about as tall as we can go as a World Eaters player. So let's look over here at the second list. This is still a tall list, but it's not as tall as the former list. So we've still got Angron and 2 Lords of Skulls. So there's, almost 3/4 of our points right there. We've managed to sort of buff it out a little bit by putting in some tactical play. We've got a squad of jackals, we've got a basic master of executions, 3 units of spawn, and a forge fiend. This will allow us to keep something in the backfield, put some units in strategic reserve, and just have a little more presence on the table, able to play the tactical missions a little better. So this is probably going to be more common of a tall World Eaters list that you may see out in the wild, or, you know, any army can run typically a couple of Lords of War, or whatever they're called now, and some other smaller units. So we've got a huge diversion here between 3 very expensive elite units and basically 5 cheap units, and then the Forge Fiend sitting in the middle. There's something reasonably tough and shooty to hold the backfield. So next, let's go and look at what the ultimate wide list would be. And for World Eaters, it is something like this. Jackal spam. So we have 6 units of jackals, all maxed out at 20 models per unit, a couple Dishonored in there, and obviously an icon and a pack leader. Then we have 2 Demon Princes of Chaos, or of Khorne. These offer, because they are the foot variety, they offer a 4-up invul for any infantry unit within 6 inches of them. We've then got 3 units of spawn because they're cheap and they're nice for strategic reserves, and just an all-around kind of cheeky unit. They will not benefit from the 4-up invul, but they're still very tanky and they heal and stuff like that. We've included Lord Invocatus and 2 units of 8-bound to just supplement and synergize with the board presence aspect we are going for here. The scout move and a reasonable amount of combat acumen will help this list, because whilst jackals can be buffed up, they have sustained hits natively and they have a 6-up feel no pain natively. They will definitely need things like lethal hits and stratagems to really pump them up to actually be able to take most enemy units down. Spawn can do some work, and obviously the 8-bound are reasonable, they are overcosted, and the Demon Princes are very strong in combat, but they do suffer to things like indirect fire and even anti-tank, because they can't get any protection through lone operative, or they can't attach to units or anything like that. So this wide list, which is well over 120 models, it's 126, 129, 132, 135 models. The majority of the list is relying on the jackals surviving, because you would give them 4-up invols, and then you would almost every turn run the Feel No Pain blessing to give them a 5-up Feel No Pain, and they will just be able to tank a hell of a lot of enemy aggression and still score you points. They are only OC1, which is a bit of a problem for jackals, but, you know, it's bodies on the objective and what have you. And then the spawn are included to jumping in the corners from strategic reserve for things like investigate signals or engage on all fronts and things like that. So that is probably about as wide as you could go with World Eaters. Obviously you could get more models in there, drop the 8-bound, put regular berserkers in or something like that, but we've maxed out our 6 battle line max squads of jackals. We've synergized them with some 4-up invols. We can scout move a couple of them if we need to. We've got options, and I think this plays the mission very well, but obviously can be countered. So then we'll look at one more list. This is a list I've actually run. By the way, none of these lists am I advocating as being specifically or particularly competitive. They're just examples of extremes or mid-table. This is something far more in the middle. This is, you know, what you typically look at as something trying to be a take-all-comers list. We've got a reasonable amount of units. We've got 6 vehicles total. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6 infantry units and 4 characters in there. It answers some questions. It doesn't answer all of them. It's got some heavy hitting units with the Land Raider, the Forge Fiend, the Brigand, and then 2 Terminator squads. But it does have tactical flexibility, coming in from reserves and things like that, with the Jackals and the Bloodletters and Skulltaker in reserve. This is a wider list than, for example, this list, as you can definitely see the difference there, number of units and things, and flexibility on the table. This list has done okay for me, but it's nothing particularly special. So yeah, that about sums it up. So again, this list here, this widest list that I could possibly write, will play the mission very well, but it will crumble. Once those units are depleted, you start getting battle shocked with them and things like that, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So this is a list that relies on pushing upwards and outwards very quickly and expanding your lines, screening out your enemy and taking claim of any objectives that you can, and just hoping to win on points, because you're not going to be doing as much killing as you would with something like this. And the reverse is true. This, you're going to rely on killing. You may have to be locked into taking something like Bring It Down or Assassinate from the fixed secondaries. And I mean, you could try engage on all fronts. I don't know how long it'd last. It just depends on your opponent. But you will be deleting units. It's just, will they be scoring quicker than you? And that is a problem you're going to run into. Which is why typically competitive lists will fall somewhere between this tall but not the tallest list, and somewhere around here between the very wide and the reasonably wide list over here. So yeah, okay, that wraps it up. Let me stop yammering now. Hopefully this explains the concepts of tall and wide to you, and how you can start to incorporate them as a theory into your list building based on your personal preferences, your model limitations, your local meta, how you like to play the game and things like that. So yeah, drop in the comments what your thoughts are, if this was helpful to you, and if you've got anything you would like to add, and come join us in the Discord and all that good stuff. But from me, that's the end of this video. So until next time, folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn. Alright, thanks for watching, but let me take 15 seconds of your time to try and sell you the best product on earth. No, not eternal life through the salvation of Jesus Christ,
but eternal anger through the annihilation of the nails.
We'd really appreciate it if you could like this video, consider subscribing, and check us out on our other media, Twitch, Spotify and Instagram, links below. Also, jump in our Discord, and if you're interested in getting some super premium competitive or hobby advice, check out our Patreon perks. Peace.